Welcome back, everybody, and over to you, David.
Alicia, thanks so much. Delighted to be back this afternoon, at least East Coast time, and to welcome someone who has helped us to define, redefine, and bring innovation so persistently to digital asset management, a good friend, a trusted advisor, John Horodyski. John's the managing director for information management at Optimity Advisors. Some of us like to say John's never met a piece of metadata he didn't like. And lucky for the rest of us, he actually knows what to do with it. Some of you heard me say this morning, I think we should name a few principles of how DAM works after John and the leadership that he's brought to our field, starting when he originally was a digital asset manager at Electronic Arts and has contributed so consistently and energetically and with unabiding spirit ever since then. So John, looking forward to your presentation. Glad that you're here and you're continuing to help us unfold the time zones. I'll be back for questions and answers after we have a chance to listen. Excellent. Up. Over to you, John.
Thank you, David. Thank you. A big virtual thank you to you, David. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening to where you are in the world. As David said, my name is John Horodyski. So quick biography, this is me, live virtual from the West Coast of North America. Managing Director of Optimity Advisors, been doing digital asset management now for over 20 years. Been very privileged to have worked with companies from Fortune 10, 50, 100, 200 and up, mostly in North America and Europe. Started the industry at Electronic Arts, came with a library and information science as well as an archival background. So definitely looking at digital asset management with a focus and a lens on the data. I also teach a graduate course at San Jose State University, where I just celebrated 14 years teaching that graduate course. And very, very happy to have been a part of the Henry Stewart family for many years now. And I'm so excited to be a part of the Festival of DAM today. So Alicia, let's go to the next slide and show the agenda for today. We're gonna do, this is all about the good news of metadata and digital asset management. Here's the agenda. We're gonna talk a little bit what is DAM, what is metadata, what are those benefits? We do wanna talk about the benefits because that is all about what is the good news. So let's be talking and focused on the good news. It's 2020, it's been an interesting year. We all need good news. So let's get into it. So I always love to have a foundation before we have a discussion. So let's talk about the foundation of what is DAM. What is digital asset management? Well, it consists of all those management tasks and technological functionality surrounding all these good things like ingestion, annotation, tagging, storage, retrieval, distribution of all those amazing, incredible, rich media assets that you have. These could be things like images, graphics, videos, all of your marketing collateral, all those things that we want to use and reuse in your marketing and business operations. And always be mindful that when you are doing your DAM, it's not just the stewardship of those assets, but it's their everyday care, it's the preservation, it's talking about the people, it's thinking about the workflow, it's all those things managing about your digital asset management system. So I just wanted to show some 7 sort of big highlights of what your digital asset management system should be covering. Obviously, you need your assets. You need those rich media collections. You need a healthy metadata and taxonomy. Without metadata, you have nothing. We're going to get into that a little bit later. We got to focus on your workflow. Assets are going to go in, assets are going to come out. How do they get in? How do they get out? What happens to them in the middle? That's something you need to start considering as well. Obviously, you need to think about your rights management and your licensing applications. What can, and more importantly, can you not do with your assets? Obviously, number 5, preservation. Do we need to keep this stuff longer than we should? Maybe there are reasons why we need to keep it longer for historical purposes or even legal reasons. So always be mindful of the preservation. And finally, the last 2, your UX and your UI. It can be fancy, it can be good, but if it's not usable and people don't want to use it, that's not a good thing. So let's talk about the good news of a good user experience for your digital asset management. And lastly, the good, if not the great news about governance. If you're not doing governance, your DAM is not going to work. So if you're not doing it, you're thinking more about when do I start? Start today. You really start to get that governance going before you do anything. Awesome. So that's a little bit of foundation of DAM. Let's go to the foundation of metadata. So on slide 9, we're going to do another poll. So we're going to do this poll. You can answer on your using the chat boxes. So Very simple question. Are you satisfied with your metadata? Yes, no, or I don't have any. That's fine. You should get some metadata. That's a very good thing. But I'm curious to see the answers on the side there for yes, no, or I don't have any. Number 10, the next slide, please. So what is metadata? Well, it's more than just data about data. It refers to all those descriptive elements that define and describe an asset. And as I said earlier, without metadata, you kind of have nothing. So you need to really be specific about what you're talking about with your assets. There are 3 good ways to define your metadata. The first is your descriptive. All those things that you need for discovery and identification, all the things you would need, such as your title, the creator, the date, location, all those good keywords, all those descriptive elements about your assets. Number 2 is your structural or technical metadata. All those amazing, incredible pieces of information that have to do with the bits and the bytes, the file length, the file size. It may not be important to you, but that technical information is incredibly important for someone else in your organization. It's an excellent thing to keep going on. And lastly, the administrative metadata. This is all those things that help you manage an asset. We're focused here on 2 big things, one being your rights or licensing information, all the stuff that we would need to involve around who has it, where did it come from, what are the ownership rights, what you can and cannot do with it. And the second one being the preservation metadata, all those elements that may point back to historical references. It might be a physical asset itself somewhere in your organization. So always be mindful of those 2 parts of the administrative data to get your stuff going. All right. The next slide, Alicia, number 11. So now we kind of know what metadata is, but I just want to leave you with 3 things to consider. So when you are going forward with the metadata strategy, so you can get that good news happening for you, number 1, what problems are you trying to solve? Ensure that you know the business goals of your organization and how that's going to contribute. Don't go into this blindly. You want to be thinking very much about what's your business trying to do, what business problems are you trying to solve. Your metadata and your DAM will be very much a part of that process. Number 2, seems simple, but we got to ask this very loud and proud. Who's actually going to be using this metadata and for what purposes? Oh, you got to really think about your users. Who are they? Are they salespeople? Are they marketing communications? Maybe it's both. I'm not sure, but you need to start thinking about who the users are so you can better understand how to use that metadata and how much of it do you really need. And then lastly, number 3 is what kinds of metadata are important for all those purposes that you're trying to do in your business. Do you need compliance regulations? Do you need approvals? Do you need versioning? Your metadata is going to be your guide for the future. It's a love note that you will be able to keep with you on and on. So be mindful of those 3 things about your metadata. Awesome. All right, now let's start talking about those good benefits of the metadata. So Alicia, let's go to slide 13. What are the benefits of DAM? So I'm going to talk about the benefits of DAM and the benefits of metadata. So let's do slide number 13, the next one. And so here's 10 really good things. I don't want to go through them all, but I want to highlight some of them. Obviously, your DAM can be that single source of truth for all your assets and your metadata within the organization. Yes, it can be the core of your MarTech strategy because your DAM is going to house all the good stuff that can go out and share and be important through other levels of your organization. It's going to help improve your organization with file storage. It's going to maximize all the access to get that content because it's in one place. It's going to strengthen your brand consistency and give better control of your brand. It's going to reduce your time to market because you can find things better, use them, and even reuse them, which is all about improving ROI. I don't know about you, but in September 2020, these are some good, if not great benefits of DAM. This is the good news we want to hear. All right, Alicia, let's go to the next slide so we can talk about what are some of those great benefits of metadata. Well, metadata is amazing in itself, but let's talk about some of those good things. It's going to tell you where the content came from, where is it going, and how it can be used. I think that's a great thing about metadata. Metadata can unlock the ROI potential to ingest, discover, share, and distribute all your content. That's a great thing about metadata. All those funny words and people have talking about AI and science fiction-y type stuff for the past. Well, AI is very much now a part of our present, And you're not going to get any artificial intelligence or any machine learning without a good data and metadata foundation. I think that's great news about metadata. Social media, you know, those funny hashtags that we see out there on Twitter and other places, that's metadata. That is all good content that you can use and potentially reuse in your organization, even in things like product management. Start listening to the hashtags outside. It can maybe help you do things on the inside. Metadata provides rights management enforcement, resulting in stronger revenue retention. And ultimately, number 10, the good news of the day is that metadata is the foundation of your content. Good news to hear in September 2020. All right, Alicia, just a few more slides to go. There you go. What is the good news? Let's talk about slide number 16. What is the good news? All right. The opportunity is in front of us. All of you here, North America, Europe, Asia, wherever you are virtually, the opportunity is here in front of us. We, all of us, can invest in this effort. We need to recognize that the opportunity for change is now, and that digital asset management, DAM, can be seen than more than just DAM, but it's going to be a critical component of the marketing and your technology ecosystem. We need DAM more than ever now to not only be your single source of truth, but the foundation upon which to build consumer engagement. The good news now, more than ever, is that the ability to change is with you. Now, the benefits of DAM and metadata are within your reach. We've seen them, we just talked about them. We know that you can get them and you're able to grasp them and start moving forward. And the demand to deliver successful and sustainable business outcomes with your DAM often collides with transitioning business models within marketing operations. You need to take a hard look at the marketing and business organization and say, well, how can I go forward? How can I optimize my process? How can I make things better for not only our organization, but for the consumers who are going to be taking this data and the assets with them? So we can dedicate this investment and we can put the effort towards our people, our process, and our technology. Number 17, the next slide, Alicia. So, okay, so how do we get started? Well, let's look. Here's a great little checklist of some good news to get started. Do you have a business case? I hope you do. Do you have a DAM champion? I sure hope you do. If you don't, you better go find one. Do you know where your assets are? Again, sounds like a silly question, but it's actually quite important. Where are they? It's a good thing to know. Do you have metadata associated with your assets? Well, as we all know, metadata is good, if not great. So I sure hope you're thinking about that metadata component right now. Do you know your workflow? If you don't, you have to start thinking about how they're going to get in and then so they can get back out. Do you know your rights? Do you know what you can and cannot do with this information? If you don't know, start getting those legal answers right away. And then lastly, do you know what your users want? If not, go talk to them. This is your time to embrace that change, and the opportunity is with you to go speak with your users right away. Very close to the end now. The next slide, Alicia. So what is the good news about DAM best practices? The good news is there are best practices. So I just want to share a few with you today to start thinking about as you go forward. DAM, as I've said many, many times, is a program, not a project. A project, by definition, has a beginning and an end. It ends. The good news about DAM is that it goes forward. It keeps on going. So you have to treat it like that. You have to finance it and budget like that. You have to have people and resources to manage this DAM going forward. So don't think of it as the short-term project. Think of DAM as a program. That is great news for the future. I always like to think that DAM is a human endeavor. Many people at this conference today are all people involved in DAM, whether you're digital asset managers or art directors or creative directors or librarians, you're all involved in this, and people help DAM become better and what it is. So never forget that the good news is that there's people behind these DAMs. So let's focus on the people for a while. Another piece of good news is that content is no longer the only king or queen. The user is also worthy. So let's look about, again, like the UX and the UI. Is it a good experience? If not a great experience, always be mindful to improve that experience so users can find what they're looking for. Good governance. I'll skip down to the bottom a little bit. Implement good governance. This is the opportunity to really embrace that change and ensure that you're managing change for the future. The only way you can do that is with really good governance. So embrace that change, love that change, and make sure that governance is part of your DAM program going forward. And this one seems a little bit interesting, but I like to include it. It's okay to accept that it's not going to be perfect, because it's going to be really, really good, and it's going to evolve, and it's going to grow, and it's going to become better and better as it goes along. So don't go into it with the expectations of it's going to be perfect right out of the gate. It's going to be awesome and really good, and it's just going to get better over time. And that is a good thing for us to always remind ourselves when we're doing any large technology implementation program. It's going to be perfect. It will be really, really good as you go forward. All right, Alicia, we've got, I think, one slide left. The next one, number 19. What are some other good best practices for metadata going forward? As I've always told people for many, many years, start small, then grow big over time. Don't go too fast. Don't go too quickly out of the gate and try and swallow it all up. Maybe choose a department or a certain level of unit within the organization, or potentially even pick an asset class and start from there and then move forward. It's best to go small and grow and be successful and keep on being successful as you grow over time. A big fan of having collective intelligence workshops to create meaningful metadata. Not only grab your fellow coworkers, but go grab some people from the other departments, and you can use the wisdom of a collection of different people to provide you with more wholesome, meaningful metadata as you go forward. So don't forget the power of collective thinking to help you go forward. Use good card sorting exercises. Many Henry Stewarts, I've been doing the taxonomy games. Those are great ways to allow you to start thinking about how to organize your content in the right way. So again, it's all about findability, and people can find what you're looking for. Beware of the competitions. Be aware of how they name and maybe categorize information. And that's a good best practice for metadata, is go see what other people are doing to maybe help you how organize your own content. Be aware of the political and cultural viewpoints. In global organizations, you have to be very mindful how different people treat content, let alone how they understand content. And that's important for you to know as you go forward. And like I said on the last best practice, accept that it's not going to be perfect. It's going to be really, really awesome. And then, Alicia, let's just go to slide 21 to close it out. Future forward. Now that we know the good news is there, that we got the ability to change in front of us and we can do this, 3 things I want to be mindful of to share with you today. When you're going with your DAM program, always be mindful that DAM may very well be a part of the MarTech strategy within the organization, because the DAM is where all that good content is going to be shared out. So those of you today who are participating in some of the webinars and are hearing panel presentations, be mindful to think of the future where DAM can be positioned as that core for your MarTech strategy. Also, let's just say it, metadata is everything. It's everything. When you have your content without it, it's losing its luster. It doesn't make it a smart or that shiny asset. So if you have not developed a metadata program yet for the future, this is your time to start embracing that change and saying, what can I do with my metadata to make my assets bigger, better, stronger, smarter? And then lastly, as we hinted earlier on, artificial intelligence. It was once sort of a science fiction, and it was once something that was mentioned in passing, but now it's very much of a real strategy. And I'd like to encourage all of you who may have some ideas about AI, start thinking of your 2021, 2022 budgets and start saying, how can AI work with my system? Is it better tagging for my assets? Is it machine learning about product information coming from another system? I don't know the answers for you, but I would like to encourage you to take that time to be future forward thinking and seeing where AI could potentially work within my digital assets management system and program. And then in closing, I want to say that, again, let's try and think of beyond the here and now, embrace the change for the future, and always remind yourselves that DAM is going to be integrated and connected with all that you do within your organization. So my last pitch to you, my last idea is to make sure you are being connected as you go forward. And with that, I think we've got about 8 minutes for Q&A. Is that true, David?
It is. Thank you, John.
Awesome. Thank you, David.
Yeah. So thanks for that. Such a good set of guidelines for all of us to pay attention to. And as I said in my opening remarks this morning, metadata is the key to the kingdom. And
love it. Love it.
Somebody keeps changing all the locks. And in the spirit of that, we had a fascinating question come in. I talked a bit this morning about language and how language is always changing, how 150 years ago when Jules Verne was writing around the world in 80 days in the cloud, could have met someone someone daydreaming about being part of a utopian community in the 1870s. So today we grapple all the time with language changing, and John, you're an expert at this. Where I live in Washington, D.C., the phrase BLM here or in Utah or Arizona could have commonly meant, oh yeah, we got a meeting with the Bureau of Land Management. But in 2020, who in the world thinks of BLM as Bureau of Land Management? And in the spirit of sensitivity, of language always changing, here's an interesting question that was posed to you. How are the leading experts in the industry talking about neutrality in descriptive metadata, especially as it relates to introducing, reinforcing unconscious biases to assets? Are there any best practices that you can share with us?
Mm-hmm. I love that question. Whoever that individual is, well done.
Language
is changing. Language is changing. It's evolving. 5 years ago, we never heard the word twerk. Unfortunately, we now know the word twerk. But it's a word, and it's a real word. So language is always evolving and changing. The best thing that I have seen, the best thing I've helped implement with clients is the idea of governance. With a governance council and people who regularly address and manage the language that you have, you're able to discuss some of those issues. And certainly there are sensitivities. History has taught us anything that certain things have changed over time. The way we describe things have changed over time. Some words which were allowed to be said 100 years ago are no longer allowed to be said for all the right reasons. But with a rigorous program of governance and looking at that language, you are able to identify potentially ones which are now deemed insensitive or culturally inappropriate, if not just blatantly wrong. But with a good governance program, you can identify those terms, and the options are there to potentially remove, never erase, but remove, have that somewhere go in a note field, and potentially add new elements into the structures so that people are still able to find those historical assets and identify those pieces of history. History changes, so is our language changing, but with good governance, we're able to look at those terms in more meaningful ways, make changes where it's necessary, and always having the ability to have our users, those people in the kingdom, access those assets.
Thank you,
Good
John.
question.
It is. I love that question, and it's so critical. John, one of our senior global practitioners said, okay, John, let's put this in the bigger picture. Can you share a couple of comments about master data management or other application software that affects the vitality and the nurturing of structured information that's metadata, but in a very different way than what you've been talking about it?
Mm-hmm. So for those of you, MDM, otherwise known as Master Data Management, it is taking metadata to a different level. Some of our organizations need this, some of us may not be there yet. So for those of you who may not understand, I'm sure we can offer some more information to you on what an MDM practice is and what an MDM system would look like. David mentioned a very good word, and that is unstructured and or structured. Some of our content comes with stuff, sometimes it does not. It could be an image, but it's missing things. Where did it come from? Who owns it? It could be a product image. Again, is it for North American line? Is it for potentially a European line? So sometimes we don't always get the structure we need in life. Data management, or even in the larger sense of an MDM program, can help you identify how to manage those little pieces of data. Because what you don't want to do is have the right product go to the wrong region for the wrong reasons. So let's be very mindful of how to manage those pieces of data, and an MDM program can do that for you on a very fine level. Again, it is taking a metadata program to a different place in terms of managing that product data, so you are getting the right information out to the right people at the right time. And I think one thing you hear a lot at the conferences in the past is a lot of people really using those words more often, David. So I do enjoy that people are coming to these conferences already saying, I've got a whole bunch of unstructured data. What do I do with this? I know I'm getting it something from potentially a PIM, a product information management system. I'm trying to get it out this way to a marketing resource management system. At the end of the day, ultimately we want to make sure that people are finding what they're looking for, but an MDM program can take that level of data management to a different level and really ensure that that whole flow throughout the system is being effectively managed. Good question. Well done.
It is. And I think that as the geometry of metadata continues to change, we could spend a whole session, John, on smart labels and
Would
on
love
their,
to. Would love to do
it would be so fascinating.
Yeah.
So in tandem with the MDM question, and we'll wrap up with this one, could you share a few more words on the people aspect of this? What capabilities are necessary to lead these kind of information-centric projects where we might have a deep basis in MDM, or maybe DAM-driven metadata is in the lead? So some more words on people and their leadership and where this sits in an organization.
Yeah. You saw in one of my earlier slides, I mentioned that DAM is a human endeavor, and I'm a big believer in that. And if anyone has seen the power of the Henry Stewart conferences, it's filled with people, great people doing incredible work all the time. And some of those people are very much focused on the metadata part. Sometimes we see a lot of librarians involved in this. And I remember at a Henry Stewart conference many, many years ago, wonderful gentleman stood up and said, "I need more librarians." Well, amen. Hail to that comment. It sounds good, right? But what we're seeing more often is more and more librarians attend some of these events because they're the ones who are managing that data on that specific level. They're looking at the language. They're born classificationists. They know how to organize data for meaningful purposes. It's all about good access. So the human endeavor, sometimes I'm seeing a lot more librarians be a part of these events, and I'm so excited to see that sort of stewardship. And I say that on purpose, it is stewardship. Start talking about the management of language and the metadata and all those elements that help make sure that a DAM is functional, so that, again, people can find what they're looking for. And it's exciting to see the growth and the rise of librarianship over the last few years. And David, you can attest to this. We've seen more and more panels about this, and more people engaged in having those good conversations about it. Yeah, it's great to see.
Yes, and now we have John's first principle. Metadata is never done. It's going to be named after you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yes, and along with that, we do get to name, we get to say something that I would normally be doing with you in person up on a stage, which is to ask everyone to thank you. So if you can feel all those digital vibes poking around the world to say, thanks, John. It's great to see you, to hear from your leadership and your insights.